Welcome back everyone. I'm Zell and today we're going to slice your first print for your Prusa Mini out of Prusa Slicer. We are using version 2.2. As things move forward, this is probably going to be good for several versions of Prusa Slicer, at least to get you started. We are going to assume in doing this one that you have Prusa Slicer installed. If you had problems installing it, let us know. We'll get another video out on how to install Prusa Slicer 2.2. But for now, we're going to assume you've got it installed. You clicked all the right boxes. The Prusa Mini is showing up like it is on the screen right now, or at least very similarly. Don't worry about some of the options. We'll get to that in a minute. So we need a file to actually slice, don't we? How do we get that? Well, the file we're going to use is that twist box that I used in the printer drag race video that you can look in the description and get a link for. Problem is, you probably don't have that file. Well, you could email me. There's a link down in the description, or you could send me a snail mail letter, or there's a address down in the description for that if you felt like it. But you don't need to, because I put most of my designs up on MyMiniFactory. I'll put a link to MyMiniFactory in the description. It's MyMiniFactory.com. And to get to my stuff, you can just go to the search box and type in Zelrick, hit enter, and it will bring up all the designs I've uploaded. We've got a vase and vase, we've got a slider top box with a catch, and a perfectly ridiculous pen and tool holder, which is probably the coolest pen and tool holder out there. Designed it out of frustration, and it turned out to be very popular. A lot of people like it. Not many people download it and print it though, because it takes a long time to print. We got the Twisted Star, which is another twist box, some roller and filament guides for the Raptor 2, a Twisted Square box. That's the one we're going to be printing. We'll go through the rest of them though. We've got a 500 Magnum revolver, pen and tool holder, pen pencil holder. That one version of that one, there's two versions in that package. One of them actually spins if you've got a skateboard bearing to stick in it. Screw or small item organizer with a magnetic latch lid, and my perfectly scalable snowflake that can go from earring size or even smaller all the way up to hang it off a crane, you know, huge, massive, and it will scale perfectly either direction. As far as I know, the largest I've scaled it is about a foot by a foot, and it scaled fine there from earring size. So back to the one that we want to use, which is the Twisted Square box. We're going to click on it, and we're going to look at the pictures, because pictures are fun to look at, and we want to know what we're going to print, right? We can also click the 360 view here, which will kind of show us, we want the 3D version of that, not just so we can roll it around and we can kind of see what we've got. So that's what we're going to be printing. We'll go back to pretty pictures, because I like pretty pictures. And the next and most important thing you should do when you're downloading from any of the repositories is read the description, because a lot of times the designer will put important information in that description. So let's read this one real quick. It says, I designed this for some speed and accuracy tests for a 3D printer drag race. It is a twisted square box, and the lid slides down over the bottom, making a box to store your precious in. Cool, eh? To print this box, choose the appropriate STL. They are oriented correctly for printing without support. And oriented correctly means you should be able to open them up, and on most printers at around 180 millimeter by 180 millimeter print area, you should be able to just drop this directly on the print bed in your slicer and not have to do anything. It should drop right in there and you can slice it and go. Now, tight version. If your printer is perfectly calibrated and your first layer is set well, use a tight file. You will still have to work the lid up and down a few times for it to work smoothly. This file has been tested on the Prusa MK3S and Mini with no issues. The tolerance is 0.3 millimeters, so it's very tight. 0.3 millimeter, if I remember correctly, is about the thickness of 3 or 4 human hairs, something like that. So the tolerance between those two pieces is very, very tight. If your printer's not set up properly, don't print it, like it says right here in the description. For the standard version, it says, for all other printers, if you don't know if your printer is calibrated perfectly, use a standard file. The tolerance on this file, I forgot to capitalize the T there, shame on me. The tolerance on this file is approximately 0.6 millimeters, so it should work on any reasonably well set up printer. And then it talks about the video. You really don't need to read that. So from this description, we learned that we probably should print the standard version first. If it's a little loose, we'll print the tighter version. But we'll start with the standard version. But how do we get it there? Well, obviously we're going to hit, maybe not obviously, but we are going to hit the download button. hit the download button. It should go down here. This is Microsoft Edge. However, you get about the same thing in all the browsers nowadays. And then we're going to click Open File. And here we have these two files, and it looks like you should just be able to do whatever you want with them, right? Well, unfortunately, it was a zip file that we downloaded, and you know that because it says Twisted Square Box zip up here, and it has an Extract All button here. So we can't directly manipulate these files without getting them outside of the compressed file or the zip file. How do we do that? Well, the way we're going to do it here is we're going to hit Extract All, which basically means get them out of that zip file. And we come up with this little dialog box that says select a destination and extract file. Now, if you don't do anything right here, it will go into your downloads folder as the name of the zip file, and this happens to be the second one we're doing, so it has a 1 in parentheses there, and right there in the downloads folder or whatever folder that zip file is in. If you click browse over here and put it somewhere else, well, that's where it'll put it. And I'm going to click show extracted files when complete, and this is what happens. We're going to click extract. We get a new window that doesn't have any of that. There's the old window. We'll make it go away. The new window doesn't have any of that stuff because Twisted Square Box 1 in parentheses is a folder now instead of a zip file. We removed these two files from the zip file and put them in a folder by clicking Extract All, and that's all we did, but it makes it where we can manipulate the files now. So we don't need MyMiniFactory anymore. And for now, we don't need this because now we need to get that file, that standard TwistBox file, into Prusa Slicer. Many people are going to do it this way. They're going to go up to File, they're going to go to Import, and they're going to go to Import STL, OBJ, MAF3, MAF, blah, 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 blah. It's the square with the plus in it. And then they're going to probably open up to something that looks like this. And then they're going to have to go to the quick access, go to downloads, or if you're working in Finder on a Mac, a little different, but not that much different. And they're going to go to the file folder, Twisted Square Box 1, and then they're going to highlight Twisted Box Standard.stl and click Open. Okay, that's too many steps for me, friends, just too many steps. So I'm going to click the delete button up here. That's the trash can. All objects will be removed. Yes. And I'm going to show you what I consider the easy way, especially on those files. This is the Finder window or File Explorer window, depending on what system you're using, Mac or PC. I'm going to highlight the Twisted Box Standard file. And then I'm going to click and hold on it, and now I'm going to drag it right over, and I'm going to drop it on the Prusa Slicer window. See, same thing happened. Sucked it right up, opened it. So that's how I normally do things. Now that we've got it in here, what are we going to do with it? Well, if you haven't done anything in Prusa Slicer, the first thing we're going to do is go up here and we're going to click Expert. And you're like, well, I just got a Prusa Mini. It's my first printer. I'm no expert. All right, here's why we click Expert. Because you are going to send somebody a message. You're going to watch a video. You're going to read something on Reddit, on a blog, whatever. It's going to say go change a certain setting. And let's say you send me an email. And I actually find the email. My email is a big, huge mess, so that's why I'm saying I actually find it. I actually find the email, and I respond to you, and I say, look, man, change this setting right here by just a little bit and see what happens. Well, you look and you go, well, I don't see that setting. And at this point, I haven't used simple or advanced mode in an eon or so. I don't even remember that they're there. So I'm like, well, it's under this tab over here, so far down. Here's the exact nomenclature on it. And that's how you change it. And you email back to me and you're like, I don't see it. Okay, well, at this time, you think I'm an idiot, I think you're an idiot, and nobody got anything fixed. Nothing is working right. Where if you had just clicked Advanced or clicked Expert to begin with and not messed with anything that you didn't read up on or that you don't understand, we wouldn't have this problem. Simple as that. Don't limit yourself by clicking simple. It doesn't make it easier. In the end, it makes it more confusing. So there you go, there's my rant on that. And now that we have these in here, first, let's get these objects ready to print. And they're actually ready to print for the most part. We could click slice right now and print if all these settings over here were right. But I want to show you something that's more prevalent and easier to use in Prusa Slicer 2.2, and that is the variable layer height. I click that, and before you do that, you have to make sure that your items are green. They can be green in a group or green individually. I'm leaving these grouped because that's the way they came. And then click adaptive. Now, what that does is it takes your layer height over here, your print setting. We're doing 0.2 millimeter quality, and it adjusts so much from that 0.2 millimeter to make sure that we get the details up here. And since there's no details along these edges, the largest height for the fastest printing. So what variable layer height does when you click the adaptive button, it's trying to get you the most detail in the detail areas and also the quickest printing in the non-detail areas. Over here it shows what the layer height is, and we can see if we look over here while I'm going up and down over there, see the little line going up and down? Right through here we go down to, now there's down to 0.081213 right there, and then we go to 0.25 almost all the way up, and then we're going to start going down again. We got down to 0.2, 0.15, 0.078 at that spot, and then 0.09 and 0.0718 again. And all that's doing is, we'll look here real close, these tapers right here is trying to make as smooth a taper as possible right in here and right in here by making lower layer heights. But it's also trying to make these edges print as quickly as possible without losing detail. That's why I use the adaptive. You'll want to try it and mess with it. It's great for some models, not so great for others. It's kind of a 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You'll have to learn how to use it and how you want to use it. And we can do more videos on that if you guys would like. Let me know. From here, we're almost ready, but we're gonna go down through this stuff right here just to be sure. We want it at 0.2 millimeter quality because we don't want it to print too fast, and actually going to the fast printing doesn't speed it up that much. We're not using Prusa filaments. We'll have to fix that in a minute. We are using the Prusa Mini, and mine is hooked up to Octoprint. I'm not going to teach you how to hook it up to Octoprint yet. We might get to that, but first you're going to have to go over to Chris's basement and find a video setting up Octoprint, and then once you've done that, if you're having problems getting it hooked up to the Prusa Mini, let me know and we'll do a video on that. Back to the filament. We want to change that because we're not going to use Prusa PLA. We're going to use some stuff I got on eBay during the My Coronavirus pandemic. It was all I could get for a silk silver that I needed for a project. I know that this filament prints at 220 degrees. It doesn't like 215 for some reason, and it prints really smooth, and just it's really great at 220 on what I've printed with it so far. So we're going to go to filament temperature extruder, first layer. We're going to go 220, and then we're going to go other layers, 220. And now we're going to save this so that if we buy this filament again, we have it saved in our presets. Or if we need to make changes, we have it in the presets. Also, so we don't forget the changes we made to print with this filament. So we go up here, this thing looks like a little floppy disk, or it does to me. What's it look like to you? I know some of you don't even know what a floppy disk is, so what does this little square with the thing up there look like to you? Let me know down in the comments. And we click it, and it says Save Preset. Well, it's not Prusa PLA anymore. This is eBay Silk Silver at 220 degrees. Now, why did I start that with a Prusa PLA? Well, I did that because from experience, if I'm dealing with PLA and I start with the Prusa PLA preset to make my preset for a different PLA, I almost always come out with something good. So that's just something I've learned over the past year plus printing with Prusa printers. And you can learn from that too, or learn from my learning from that, or however you want to say it. And now that we've saved that, we have under user presets this eBay Silk Silver at 220 degrees. Boom. Now we can use it anytime we want, or use it to make another preset off of, or change that preset for that particular filament. It's just really nice to save those so that you can work off of them later for the same filament or another filament. Let's go back to the platter. Now that we got those three done, let's get down here to supports. I told you in the description on MyMiniFactory that we don't need supports, so we're good there. Infill. I can tell you with this print, infill doesn't matter. You could put it at 100% or 0% and the print's going to end up the same, because there's virtually no infill in this print if you use Prusa Slicer to slice and a Prusa printer to print it. So it doesn't matter what we put there. Do we need a brim? No. We'll talk about a brim in a different video. So we're good to go. We are about to leave our 3D editor view and we're going to hit the slice button. We are sliced up. What is cool about the sliced version? Well, we can see the different layers. If we run this, see where my mouse is, run that up and down. There's different colors for different things. You can see that in the legend over here. And you can change your view to different things, like if we want to see the height, we can change that to height, and now we can see the height, and we can see as it comes up, like we saw earlier, we get lower layer heights to make these bevels just all that much smoother using that adaptive layer height, which is super cool. And you could look at other things if you wanted to. You could look at speed. But this, actually, the majority of this is going to be reasonably slow because it's all walls and all kinds of information you can get over here if you choose to. And of course, you can run this up and down. It's cool, and you could put in color changes if you wanted to do a color change. And I should do that at some point. I should make the top of this and the bottom of this equal so that we could have the very top and the very bottom a different color, and that'd be kind of fun. But over here on this side, we have some very good information too. We have the size information of the total print. I don't find that terribly useful, but it's there, and if you're doing an individual piece, it can be useful. Whenever you're doing more than one, it shows the entire plate or the entire build plate. Not so useful anymore. It does let you know if your design is manifold or not. That is important, because just like a print I tried to do the other day, I tried to print it like 3 different times, not realizing that the back side of it was not manifold. So you get it back 3/4 of the way through and the whole thing would just fall apart. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? Well, something goofed up in that design and it was just all garbled on the back. And I wasn't spinning the thing around. I wasn't being diligent and looking all the way around it. So it failed on me. 2 or 3 times, wasted probably 1/8 of a roll of filament or so because I was trying to get it done quick between doing other things. Moving on along to sliced info, we have used filament in meters. It's 11.3. Used filaments in millimeters squared, not as useful to me. And used filament in grams. This is useful, and we'll talk about this in another video later. This helps you gauge how much it's actually going to use and how much filament you need to print this. And of course the cost. Now I don't have anything set up for cost on anything, so I don't worry about it. And our estimated print time. This is important, and on the Prusa machines it is pretty darn close. Although the Prusa machines do not count initial warm-up, so you're going to have to add like 3, maybe 5 minutes total depending on the filament and the temperatures. That is all the information that we're really going to need to look at in our slice screen, unless you just want to play around with this, and there's, you know, some cool stuff there. But for now, we need to just get this sliced and on our USB stick. So I've got my 50-50 chance to get the USB stick in right. Here we go. Let's see. Did I do it? Yes. Man, I better go buy a lottery ticket. So that brings up our Prusa Mini, but we can actually just make that go away, because a new feature of 2.2 is this export to SD card. If you read, you can't see that, but it also has a keyboard shortcut that is Control U. That is great that Prusa not only put an export to SD card button, but also gave us a keyboard shortcut. So we're going to click the export to SD card. It's going to bring up, make sure you get the right USB up here, which I label mine. And this one says Prusa Mini. I've got got an SD card labeled MK3S. I try to remember to label them so that I don't stick them in the wrong machine. If you notice down here, it says Twisted Box Standard 0.2mm PLA Mini 2 hours 19-minute G-code. So that tells us what the file is, what the base layer height, not the adjusted layer height for the variable feature, but the base layer height is 0.2. It's PLA, it's for the Prusa Mini, and it's going to take 2 hours and 19 minutes to print. I don't usually mess with those because that is pretty important, especially the layer height, the time, and the material. And now, since I've got a couple of Prusas, the Mini versus MK3S. Material is very important because if you have a bunch of the same brand of material and you happen to have PLA and PETG of the same color from the same brand out, you might do silly things like stick the wrong material in and slice for the wrong, yeah, you know what I'm saying. And then you can at least look back at the file and go, oh, that's not what I had stuck in there. I'm not as smart as I thought I was. Bleh. Anyhow, click save, and I've already done this before, so I'm gonna have to click yes to replace it. And now we have this little eject button. Remove device is what that tooltip says that you can't read. And what it does is unmounts your USB stick so you can safely remove it. It's like the Windows safely remove USB thing. And there you go, it's safely removed. We can click OK here, and in the next video we're going to go to the Prusa Mini and we're going to do all the things necessary to get the Prusa Mini printing this particular file, and we're going to print it. You guys have a wonderful day. Let me know if there's anything else that you need to know about the Prusa Mini. I'm trying to get a group of videos together that cover, I don't want to cover all the major maintenance on the Prusa Mini. I might as things come along, but I want to cover the things that are going to hit the new user whenever they get their Mini and they need to know what they're doing. That's why we got that Minda thing. That's why we've got that the first layer and something else video I did. And you guys tell me what you need and I'll do my best to get it out there for you. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.